no one in our program, from our administration to our coaches to our players, were happy with our season last fall. You're talking about some of the guys that are graduating and having those conversations about staying and returning for their final year of eligibility. We were able to keep 6, 7 guys.
Obviously has a pedigree and an aura, if you will, around this guy who has been with some of the best staffs in the country at Alabama and Georgia, respectively.
The Bijan Robinson of Division III football, Rashawn Lamont's running back, Susquehanna.
Hello, welcome back to Division I Rejects. I'm your host, Kobe Manzo. Tonight is a special episode of the pod because we're back. We were on a couple-week hiatus. We're back in the studio, and we're back with a little bit of a new setup. Let's start things off talking about what's over my right shoulder, your left, the new lid of Division I Rejects. This thing is ridiculous. Get a really good look at that. Shout out, massive shout out to our friends at Vices who put this together for us. This thing is one of the cleanest lids in all the podcast game. I don't actually know who our competition is, for the record, but I feel like this has to be at the top of the mountain. Look at this thing, the decals with the fresh logo, the red mask, and it's comfortable too. It is ridiculously comfortable. I actually might just see if we can get this on real quick. I'm going to rock this for the intro here. This lid, courtesy, once again, of our friends over at Vices. Massive shout out to them and my good friend Clint Brightman for putting this together, because this is a really cool piece to have. One is like a quote-unquote sec decoration, but also just what a cool deal of the people you get to meet in the football landscape. And on top of that, you know, people that just want to help. They want to help and grow this product and grow this brand. I'm excited to continue to do this tonight. It is no different. We've got an incredible guest coming on here shortly, the head coach from formerly Lindsey Wilson College, now Lindsey Wilson University, that being Phil Kleckler, joins the show here very shortly on D1R 211, the night of August 18th. Guys, we got football so soon. Ridiculously soon. Less than 2 weeks away. We're talking about week 0 action. Myself, I'll be down in Alabama at the week 0 Labor Day Classic. We've got Valdosta State, Clark Atlanta, West Alabama, Fort Valley State, a doubleheader down there at Legion Field. I'm excited about getting down there. But before any of that, tonight we've got some great guys back on the show. We're talking the D2 football top 25 rankings dropped very recently by D2Football.com. We break those down. Myself, Tim, a new face of the show, and Drew. We got the top moments from fall camp. Some very, very fun, lighthearted pieces of news, if you will, about football, because it is a fun sport. And then later on, Seth, Jimmy, and I, we draft our D3 fantasy teams with the very recently and newly announced D3 All-American preseason squads from D3Football.com. So excited about that conversation. We're going to try and highlight a bunch of the different guys that were honored on those preseason awards. Obviously, it's where you finish. It's not about where you start, but hey, a really fun accolade, a fun award. I want to talk about those guys. And that's really the big piece of it for tonight. We did have some NAIA top 25 rankings that drop. We'll probably cover those later in the week. So if you're looking for some NAIA coverage, we definitely will get to that later. I don't think it'll be on tonight's episode. But like I said, really pumped about the product we're putting out right now. It's only going to get better. We're going to hopefully have some live shows here very soon during the regular season on YouTube and on campus. So once again, shout out to our friends at Vices, hooking us up with the helmet. Going to be a really cool piece of D1 Rejects moving forward. And let's get right into this episode to go and talk with Coach Kleckler. Joining the show tonight, very excited to have on the second coach in Lindsey Wilson history. With this guy at the helm, the Blue Raiders have known nothing but winning. Multiple deep playoff runs. A fan of the Chicago Cubs and the Costco hot dog. Phil Kleckler, what's going on, man?
I appreciate it. I guess you've done a little research on me, so I appreciate that.
I try, man. Your digital footprint is a fun one. A clean one, but a very fun one. I enjoy taking a look at the guys we have on here. Really great great company to be in there. Cubs, Costco, hot dog, two mainstays, I think, in culture anywhere in America.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those franchises for sure.
I like that a lot. And, you know, to start things off here, I say the second coach in Lindsey Wilson history. Are you technically the first coach in Lindsey Wilson University history?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been an interesting transition here in the last, I guess, 45 days since we had our name change on the first. So it's fun to kind of see the signage and the renovations, and we start classes next Monday. So you know, they're really starting to get things going. So, but yeah, I guess I am. So
due
spent
to
a
a
lot.
technicality, but yeah, either way, right? We'll take that. And you've
Yeah.
had, I joke, but you've had a lot of success down there, and obviously have earned the respect of the people in that building, rightfully so. But the way that you and I get connected is because you come on and correct our mistake on the running back list that we put together, and good on you for sticking up for your guy. Tell me about that and why Devontae deserves to be in that conversation.
Yeah, he's a dynamic player. Unfortunately, we probably didn't use him enough a year ago, probably to our own demise, and had a really good spring practice for us. He's been turning it up here in training camp, and our opponents are going to know who he is very quickly. I'm sure they'll already know, but
Oh yeah.
very, very proud of the work he's done and excited for his future here with us.
Yep, 100%. Like you said, if they are worth anything and they're coming into town, they will know exactly who he is in terms of having him on the scouting report and things of that nature. But getting into this fall for you guys, we'll talk about some of the on-field stuff in a minute. I saw we had the Coke truck coming by. Is that how we're keeping the fellas fueled this preseason?
It was full concession stand stocking, so there was
Okay, okay.
none of it was for our guys, but we've been trying to hydrate. It's been hot here in
Good.
Kentucky, so get on that turf, it's like 10, 15 degrees hotter. So we
Yep.
got plenty of Gatorade in the locker room, but that was concession sales only. So
Good.
but they're
Good.
stocking it up.
Keep the fellas out of that.
Yeah.
Offensive skill in general, that seems like it's going to be a big strength of this squad coming out into 2025. How have you seen that early on in fall camp? What's the ceiling with that group in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking down on previous teams or anything, but probably the last couple years we haven't been as dynamic as we needed to be
Okay.
at particularly the receiver position. We really, not that we didn't do it before, but we really kind of embraced, trying to sign a couple dynamic transfer players. And,
Yep.
I think we've landed a couple of those guys. And, Cam Williams was a guy that transferred here from Kentucky Wesleyan, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
was here in the spring, probably emerged as, one of our biggest playmakers, made a ton of tough catches, instantly earned the respect, I think, on our roster from our players for the type of player he is. So we're really excited about him. And then we added another one here this summer, ironically from Kentucky Wesleyan again, Kaya Sherrard, who's also made a lot of plays here in camp. And then we also
Like
have
that.
kind of a mid-year guy. He sat out in the fall out of high school, coming out of high school from Male High School in Louisville. His name is Max Scaney. He'll be technically a true freshman, but he was with us here in spring ball.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Also
that's great.
another playmaker. So we feel really, really excited about those three guys. And
Yeah, the
in
ability
addition
to
to the
get
guys
those
we get on
guys
the
to come in
roster,
is
yeah,
awesome. Oh, continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. In addition to some other guys we get on our roster too, but those are kind of the three new big names for us.
Yeah, the ability to get those guys out of high school and get them experience before you get right into fall camp, have that acclimation period lengthened, so to speak, is a big one. But the quarterback room, Lamb is back under center seemingly. What has the competition in that quarterback room been like, and how does that supporting cast, you talked about it at wide receiver, but also at running back, some of those other offensive skill, how does that help bring those signal callers' confidence up early in camp? You guys are in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Pryor's awesome. Just extremely dedicated to the game of football, a great human being in person.
Love that.
We trust him 100%. We're really excited about, him being our starting quarterback this fall. And, I think the experience he got at the end of last season really kind of helped boost his confidence with that. He
Hmm.
played really well, in those 4 games. And I think he knows he's just got to take care of the football, number one. If you look at what our record are when we win the turnover battle, I think we've only lost like 5 games in program history or something like that. I don't know
Yeah.
what the stat is, something crazy. And so I think he knows that. He did a good job with that last year in the 4 games he started for us. But and then kind of talking about some of those playmakers, just put the ball in those guys' hands and give them a chance. You can
Yep.
throw them a 5-yard pass and they can turn and run for 70, and it's a 75-yard touchdown pass. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how far you threw it. So, we're really excited about what Pryor's doing for us.
I like that. And I forget where the quote comes from, something along the lines of, I'll butcher it, but football is a simple game made complicated by the people who play or coach it, right? And at the end of the day, Get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Let them go out and do what you pay them to do, right? Give them the air quotes there. But talk about the other side of the ball. 10 starters back on defense. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is
My
correct.
goodness.
Yeah.
That is an incredible number. Talk about that group. Obviously, I'm assuming a lot of leadership on that side of the ball, but the experience factor coming back into camp like that, where in a camp setting, you and I both know defense typically wins day 1, 2, or 3, depending on going on as the offense gets up to speed. Has that been the case this camp with that amount of experience coming back on that side of the ball?
It's as a head coach, you want good give and take. You don't want it to be lopsided. You don't want
Sure.
one side of the ball to be dominant over the other. And I think we've had that here in training camp so far. So I've been really excited about that. And I think kind of looking at our experience, front seven wise, we've had a lot of good players for us here that have been all conference caliber players, and
Yeah.
we have some starters back in the secondary, but we've also added some transfers in that regard too. So you're going to have two names at corner. Lee Livingston transferred here in the spring from Missouri Baptist, and a guy by the name of Caleb Bridges transferred from Andrew College, a junior college down in Georgia.
Okay.
Those guys have had really good camps for us at corner. So it's probably two new names that you'll see, in our starting lineup come game week, hopefully, as long as we stay healthy and all those things.
Yes,
And then
sir.
we also added a couple transfers at the safety position as well. So there's three new names there. So we feel really good about our secondary adding to the depth that we have in our front seven. That's kind of, going to allow us to do some of the things we want to do, some of the things we were doing in 21 and 22 when we were doing some stupid things from a statistical standpoint that I don't know if we can ever replicate again. We want
Sure.
to. But if you look at some of the stats and some of the things we've done those previous years, it was pretty special. So
Yeah.
it's not that we haven't played good defense here in the last couple of years, but we want to get to that level again.
Yeah, and that transfer portal process, you touched on it earlier talking about the Kentucky Wesleyan wide receivers. That's an ongoing process, it sounds like, for you guys. It's not, okay, it's the end of the season, here's our 2-week window. When that's done, it's like, okay, we stop pursuing this thing. You get into the portal, you're in that thing till you find somewhere to call home, right? And that portal, that number grows every single year. You guys know that. Talk about that process from the final game of the season all the way leading up through the summer. How do you go about making those acquisitions, so to speak? How are you always searching for talent to add depth at those positions?
Yeah, I mean, I think every coach probably answers this the same way. It's ever changing, and you don't really know what any of it is, or no one knows what's going on.
Yep.
And probably, I don't want this to sound as a negative, but we've been a little bit kind of victims of the transfer portal probably in the previous 2 years.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is, in 21, 22, 23, we had all conference players, all American players that had extra eligibility due to the red shirt or the COVID year. And, come into my office and say, Coach, I've accomplished everything I've wanted to accomplish at Lindsey Wilson. I've
Yeah.
won championships. I've graduated. There's nothing left for me here. And as a coach, you hate that. You don't want to hear that. But if I'm that young man's father, and he's saying to me, Dad, I want to go see if I can play at a higher level and all that, it's hard not to support it. And
Yep.
so,
Absolutely.
I think my philosophy with it has kind of changed over the years, just as I've gone to grow and think about it a little bit more. And so, we made some changes here within the university in terms of transfers and how long it takes to graduate and some of those things, because our athletic department was kind of feeling the effects from a whole, from
Okay.
everything, and kind of made some of our admission requirements and graduation requirements and stuff a little bit more transfer friendly. And so I think that was huge for us. And I think this year in the recruiting cycle was kind of the first year with it. So we were able to go and address some of our needs and add to some of that. But I don't want to make it sound like we're transfer focused only. It's a minor
Of
for us.
course. Balance.
Our major is recruiting high school kids and high school programs.
Yeah.
And there's probably not a high school coach in the state of Kentucky or Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia that hasn't heard about Lindsey Wilson University. And that's something we're proud of and we're going to continue to do in the future as well.
A good job in the Lindsey Wilson University
Yeah,
piece there. Has that taken a
it's
minute
been a,
to flip
it's
over?
been a tough, it's been a tough transition.
They've got you coached
I'm
up
used to
well
saying,
there, man. That's pretty good.
I'm
How
used
was
to,
that?
I'm used to saying LWC all the time. Now you got to say LWU.
That's awesome, man. That is great. And that synergy that you talk about with the other side of campus, so to speak, that's not a given at a lot of institutions, right? When you guys can work together to help mitigate some of those concerns that come up along the way, especially when it comes to the transfer portal process. And like you said, this thing's working both ways. Let's take advantage of this. Let's stop being the, I guess, quote unquote victim and start to take advantage of that and supplement what we already got going on. And what you do have going on, it seemed like this summer was buy-in from the guys, looking at the social medias and the stuff that you can see from an outside perspective. What do you attribute that to? Where have you seen that come into play in fall camp so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, a little bit about what I was talking about, just when the season ended this past fall, obviously to some people it's an okay year, hey, we'll take it type of thing. And no one in our program, from our administration to our coaches to our players, were happy with our season last fall. And
Yeah.
I think we started to have some of that buy-in when you're talking about some of the guys that were graduating in December, that were graduating in the spring, and having those conversations about staying and returning for their final year of eligibility. We were able to keep 6, 7 guys, from going elsewhere. So I think that was a big turning point from kind of the previous couple cycles, to have that already. We had a senior captain say, "Coach, the program is not where it's at right now. When I came in here as a freshman in 2021, and I'm going to make sure it's where it needs to be before I leave here, and that's why I'm
I love
staying."
that.
So as a coach, you love to hear that. And so we had a great winter conditioning, SAQ season before going into spring ball, and then we came into shape. We run the conditioning test. I think we had last season, again, you don't like to compare things, but we had 79 guys that were on what we call dawn patrol, which is morning conditioning before breakfast last year. And we're at like 30 something this year. So
Holy cow.
we were just much more prepared, ready to play
Yeah.
some football here at Lindsey Wilson this fall.
You guys certainly have to be. This 2025 team is going to be tested early on. You got Texas Wesleyan coming to town less than 2 weeks. What do you know about the Rams? Why is this the way you want to start this season with this group?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, our conference, the Mid-South Conference, has been challenged with, we had a scheduling agreement with the Appalachian Athletic Conference, and they didn't want to continue it. And so, we ended up signing a deal with the Sun Conference. So we got those two Florida teams kind of handed to us. And then the Texas Wesleyan game is a return from a home and home agreement that we signed 2 years ago, and so we kind of came into that agreement there. We had missed out on the playoffs in 23. They had missed out on the playoffs in 23. I reached out and said, "Hey, it'd be good for us to get each other on the schedule. It's a busable trip. If you want to bus, that's what we did when we went there. I'm not sure what they're doing to travel here.
Okay.
He won't tell me. I don't know. So
That's hilarious.
but they're returning the trip. So they had a great year last year, and kudos to them. And we all know it's a new year. None of it really means anything. And we're excited for the opportunity and the challenge to open with a top 10 opponent here at home in the Parm.
Everyone's talking about they got a chance to host the national championship. They got to come and play Lindsey Wilson University first before we get down the road there, my friend. But what else should people know about this Lindsey Wilson team heading into fall, Coach?
I don't know if there's anything that I need to sell on our program. I think our track record and what we've done speaks for itself, but every season is a new season, and in the past means nothing. We have Coach Marcus Graham's an alum of our program. He's our offensive line coach. Gave a great speech, during training camp about some of that, about how the tradition is good and why you come to certain places, but each team kind of forges their own path into the history of the program. And I think, we're really excited for the opportunity here in 2025 to forge our own path and make a name for ourselves.
Yes, sir. I love it. Coach, Let you get off to prepping for practice tonight. Like we said, game in less than 2 weeks, man. Kick this thing off. Really appreciate you taking some time with me tonight.
I appreciate it, Kobe. Thanks for having me.
Start tonight's episode off with the D2 conversation. I'm joined by not one, but two great fellas to talk about some D2 football tonight. You've seen Drew on here before. Drew, thanks for joining me, fella.
Absolutely. It's great to be back.
Great to be back. We get to get into some more, I think, fun news to start things off, and we have top 25 rankings to talk about, but a new face in the center, sandwiched between Tim O'Shea. What's up, my man?
What's going on, Kobe? Great to be here, man. Long time coming.
Yes, absolutely. Tell the people a little bit about yourself. Stage is yours.
All right, man. Hey, my name is Tim O'Shea. Live over in Connecticut right now. Play for Southern Connecticut State University. Shout out Owls over in the NE10. And I played tight end, captain. I was decent. I was a decent player, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Some people will say. But I'm a fan of the show. Pleasure to be here. You can follow me at Tim O'Shea _ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Hell yeah. And we had the chance to meet down in Baltimore at an NCAA conference. Felt like just a very wild twist of fate now coming around, both being a part of this Gridiron 1880 network and moving forward and trying to get into media here, especially covering the small school football. Seems like an obvious addition to what we have going on. I'm pumped for you to be with us, dude. Very much so. So thank you for joining us tonight. And throughout this season, it sounds like you're going to be a big part of this deal.
100%, and I'm really excited about it. And like you said, it's a full circle moment, dude. From Baltimore to here, it's been a couple of years, but I'm finally happy we get to collab on something.
Dude, 100%. And how about the start things off, fellas? We're going to get into the top 25 rankings for D2 football dropped by D2football.com just yesterday. Obviously, big-time news inside of Division II. But first things first, we've got something even more important to talk about. Some of the best moments from fall camp around the country in D2 football. Who better to start us off than the Colorado Mines Director of Team Morale, Ella? This would be the biggest morale boost. And for those of you listening to the program and not watching, you've got what might be the best golden retriever to ever golden retriever gracing your eyes on the screen right now. Fellas, what dog breed would you pick as your director of team morale, and why is Ella the best girl ever?
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh man, you put me on the spot here. I'm gonna say I got a hound dog, and I got my boy Howie. He's half hound, half Great Pyrenees, but I'm gonna say a hound dog with some floppy ears, a lot of energy, and something that you can, long legs. That's what I'm gonna say.
I like that. Look at these shots, dude. Right through warm-ups, ball in mouth, tail wagging. This has got to be an incredible pick-me-up for the Bellas over there. Oh, my God, dude. Yeah. Belly rubs on the sideline is awesome. And I think there's definitely room for fun stories like this inside of college football, especially at a school like Mines, where the academic rigor and the class schedule is among the best in the country. The Orediggers know how to do it right, boys. I love that. I think that's so awesome.
That's great. He's one for the camera, man. He's not shy at all.
No, Ella definitely is not. We'll go over to a team in the Midwest, a little bit more familiar with our footprint, at least, with Drew and myself, and a coach that we've had on the podcast. This comes from his social media, although he's not the one featured in this video. I'm talking about Corey Allen over at Findlay, the Oilers. Take a look at what they're getting into during fall camp, boys. That is the entire group on what is either an off day or a recovery day. Jumping into the pool is Coach Wagner. He leads the strength and conditioning charge over there for the Oilers, one of the best teams in the GMAC. Drew, you had the chance to suit up against them a few years. This looks like an awesome part of fall camp. Those boys are all in, and they might have to refill whatever pool that is after this.
It looks like one of those war scenes, and look at all the water getting splashed up, like something out of Aquaman.
I love that. And I got one more for you guys. Again, we got some fun ones before we get into the rankings and deals. And this one, I'm not gonna lie to you, this one definitely takes the cake. Excuse me. Let's go down to the GAC. This is Southeastern Oklahoma State, a team we talked about very recently on the program. Today we're not talking about football though. We're talking about maybe everything else going on. Is that a Spider-Man morph suit with a tear in the back coming through The whole team meeting, bro. I saw this, and it took me about 2 minutes of watching this on loop to even realize this was a Division II squad and one that we've talked about on this show multiple times.
The kicking it reference, that's hilarious.
That's pretty good.
This is awesome.
What do you have to do to get one of your, I don't know, is that a coach in the Spider-Man costume? Like, I can't even tell. What would you have to do to get you in a Spider-Man costume for a team meeting?
Gotta miss those walkthroughs, man. You gotta miss those walkthroughs at least.
Yeah. You're getting a pass?
Yeah, you gotta.
That's pretty good. All right. Well, I thought those were fun enough to kind of start the program off. We'll get into now kind of the meat and potatoes of what we have going on tonight. That is the top 25 released by D2Football.com heading into the 2025 season. Obviously, a big deal, fellas. We kick this thing off, kick this season off. Again, D2Football.com, great friends over there. They do a wonderful job of covering D2 football. Definitely tune in for all of the news and recent happenings. And right away, Ferris State on top. The Bulldogs have won 3 of the last 4 national championships. They're on a run that is almost unparalleled at this level of football. They're slated to go back and do it again. Harding, Central Oklahoma come in the 2 and 3 spots. Rounding out the top 5, Minnesota State, Kutztown, some NSIC, PSAC flair. And then from there, it's kind of anyone's game. Grand Valley at 6 is maybe, Grand Valley might be one of the only fan bases in the country to say they're underrated at the 6th spot. CSU Pueblo, Western Colorado, some RMAC flavor at the 7 and 8 pieces respectively. You got Slippery Rock, Pittsburgh State, West Florida, Angelo State, Ouachita Baptist, a great splattering from across the country. And then to go on the list really quickly for those listening, Lenore Ryan, Indianapolis, Augustana, Valdosta State, California, PA, Bemidji State, Fort Hays, Virginia Union, Charleston, West Alabama, Central Missouri, and Ashland. That's a mouthful, but fellas, those are the full rankings. Anything jump off right away as a surprise or a shock factor, or is this kind of what we expected?
Yeah, I mean, Ferris State at the top of the list, returning national champions. That's going to be a familiar sight right there at the top.
Sure.
One of my teams that I want to look out for right now is West Florida. They were a young team last year, and they battled injuries. They kind of had an unfavorable schedule, too. They played 4 top 25 teams, and 2 of them were in the top 3 at one point last season, and they lost to West Alabama in double OT. And then after that game, they go on the road to Grand Valley State. It's a tough schedule, but they're returning a lot of guys. They got TJ Lane, Marcus Stokes, Corey Scott, their leading running back, quarterback, wide receiver. I think they got a very favorable schedule this year. If they beat Lenore Rye week 1, I think they can go 6-0 going into West Alabama week 7.
Okay.
That good momentum carrying them in. I think that's a team to watch out for this year.
I like that pick a lot. We had Coach Nobles on the show pretty recently. Absolutely love what he's done with the program down there. He's been a part of the staff at Clemson with Dabo Sweeney, so obviously has been around some great influential coaches. Stokes under center is a dude. He's an absolute dude. I don't think we've been fully unleashed to the potential of what he has, especially under a guy like Nobles, who is a very great quarterback himself at the college level. So look for him to tap into that talent this year. And I'm going to kind of stay in the Gulf South in terms of teams that maybe we think are, it sounds crazy to say underrated when you're the top 25 teams in the country, but if you're out of West Alabama right now, I think you can absolutely make that case. That, to me, is a team that is kind of just stacking the chips on their shoulder as they come. And for me, Coach Cochran comes in to this building, this facility, and obviously has a pedigree and an aura, if you will, around this guy who has been with some of the best staffs in the country at Alabama and Georgia, respectively, with Saban and Smart and these incredible coaches. There might not be a true precedence, fellas, for what this guy brings to the head coaching position. A lot of question marks about the product they'll put on the field. What you do need to know about this team is they're all in for this guy. They absolutely, from what I can tell, I'm talking to these guys, they'll die for this dude. They're going to go out there and put it all on their field for this guy. You pair a strong leader with a squad that returns 2 of the top offensive weapons in the conference in Arsenault, and then at the tight end spot, Caleb Bass. That's a duo I cannot wait to see in person down at the Week 0 Labor Day Classic. I'll get down there soon here in Birmingham, Alabama. And for me, you kind of said it earlier on, Tim, there's no easy games on this schedule for any of these teams on this list. But with that being said, there's an asterisk. I say Week 0, Week 1 could be tune-up games. Fort Valley, I believe, Chowan could be tune-up games and allow this squad to really get some momentum, find their rhythm, start to develop this identity of theirs under Cochran before getting into those tough Gulf South games against your West Floridas, your Delta States, Valdosta down the line. there's going to be some juggernauts on that list. West Alabama, for me, is a team that is looking to prove a lot of people wrong and a lot of people right.
Yeah, Kobe, to be completely honest with you, and to be honest to the viewers, Kobe picked that West Alabama before I got the chance to log onto the thing to pick West Alabama because I also agree with that. So I did decide to, look at another team as a potential team that I'm like, okay, let's see what they got. And it's the Vulcans of California, Pennsylvania. They enter the season ranked 18 in the country. Let's see what they got. Right, you're in the PSAC. It's a tough conference. In week one, they have Charleston, who obviously we know that Charleston pre-ranked 22, right? So that's like a good chance to let's see, how we can, a good test immediately, right? Some teams I feel like kind of want like a good win week one and they don't pick a team that's necessarily like a challenge versus other teams are like, okay, let's get like a team that we can like see where I'm at.
Yep.
Good week one. It's an underrated week one game being a Thursday night. And then Charleston could start off 3-0 as they have Westchester and Lock Haven after that, going into a big matchup at Slippery Rock, right? Night game, PSAC, right? I think that they could be a team that could surprise some people, right? Um, let's see exactly what they have is because as far as veterans and stuff, you got guys like or Khalil Taylor and Keith Charney. So, why not Cal U, right? Like what
I like that.
in the PSAC, I feel like it's always wide open. Right. So as far as a team that like could make a chance and could go do something with it, I could see them being that team.
I like that pick. Charleston reeling off the
Sort of like
loss
how
of Siobhan Wright
sort of like
out of
how
that
Bemidji was
backfield,
last
right?
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Sort of like how Bemidji was last year, where you remember Bemidji was kind of like pre-ranked on the edge of in the middle of the teens, right? And then they kind of, turned it on as of late at the end of the year and made a little bit of a run.
I do like that pick. And talking about Charleston a little bit, Siobhan Wright out of that backfield is trying to figure out what does our offense look like without the best back in the history of our program and one of the best in the history of Division II football the season he put together a year ago. And those couple games in the beginning, dude, those are no Westchester and Lock Haven. It's actually kind of a gauntlet to start things off after even Charleston getting into that Slippery Rock game. They take down the Rock last year, one of two meetings earlier on. Can they do it again in 2025? We shall see. But let's talk about the upper echelon of these rankings. You can't talk about the bottom without talking about the top. Drew, tell me about Ferris State. What makes them the true number one pick when it comes to the preseason top 25?
I think it's kind of funny, Kobe. Often teams talk about Alabama. They don't rebuild, they reload. They talk about Georgia now in the same category. At the Division II level,
Hell yeah.
that's the definition of Ferris State, right? They don't rebuild, they just reload. Um, it's the team that everybody's chasing. It's the team everybody has been chasing, to be completely honest with you. You win 3 out of the last 4 national championships. We've talked about this team, this program over, the last couple years being on this this podcast. It's just like, type of like dynasty talk, right? And it's not one of those things to where it's always like, oh, we rebuild through the portal, right? Like look at exactly last year, right? Carson Gulker went down and what happened? The next man up decides to just go undefeated and
The next man up decides to be possibly the best, if not one of the best players in the country.
exactly. And so it's just like this 50-5 over the last 4 years, right? There is no area that you look at that team and you're like, oh, maybe they struggle there, right? And
Yep.
if you do, it's like you're going out on a limb to try to make that.
You're reaching.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, simply put, I think they're legit because they're well coached. And to be honest with you, I think that they know how to get the best out of not only their guys that are in the program, that guys that come in and want to be a part of something special.
Yep. 100% agree. Now, Tim, take me to the number 2 spot. Harding. Thankfully, these two teams do not share the same super region in 2025. Thank God SR3 has been split up. The MIAA, GAC, GLIAC, that phenomenon is no longer. They move over to Super Region 4 with their MIAA counterparts. So we won't see them hopefully early on in the playoffs. This could be a potential late round semifinal type matchup. Tell me about the Bisons.
Well, they're going to be doing the same thing they always do, and they're going to run the damn ball, man. Braden Jay and Andrew Miller, they're the best backfield in D2. Last year, they combined for over 2,000 rushing yards. There's no other team in all of college football that's doing something like what Harding is doing. I love this team. I love this culture. I love the way they play. And, you know, Braden Jay is getting preseason MVP votes because he adds an element of receiving out of that backfield. And last year, they threw it 14 more times than they did in 2023. So obviously they're having a whole change in culture. I think we might be able to get to 70 passing attempts this year for this
This
team.
is the reporting we need. Yes, dude.
Ouachita Baptist is always going to be a tough but I don't see anyone standing in the way of this team until late in the playoffs. Per usual, I mean, this team, it's pretty simple. They're just going to run it down your throat, and you just got to stop it. They're going to line up their men against your men, one-on-one. We're better, and you know what we're doing. We're going to run the damn ball.
Absolutely, yeah. Henderson State, another one out of the GAC that was notably missing from this top 25 ranking. But like you said, Washita there at 13 is a big hurdle they're going to have to get over. And this Harding team, man, Coach Simmons once said that the Flexbone ain't so bad if you like winning. And I love that. And they absolutely live by that. But fellas, to round this out in terms of some of the top dogs, so to speak, in this top 3, let's talk a little bit about this team. We're going to talk a lot about them tonight. Central Oklahoma. Man, you go down there in Edmond, the biggest thing I thought would hold back the Chos in the preseason poll was their new head coach. I use air quotes there for those not familiar. James Curley, he served as the offensive coordinator. He was a finalist for a Coordinator of the Year award last year. He takes over as the interim head coach. I believe that is still the tag attached. Not 100% sure of what's going on down there. Their former head coach arrested in April. That could flip a team. Especially in the day and age of the portal, you could have a team disband and go every which way after an event like that. Certainly has not seemed to be the case. Of course, you lose some big-time playmakers. I'm not going to sit here and act like Terrell Davis going to Oklahoma State is just a non-factor and it's a non-loss for this squad. There's others, too. He just comes to mind right away. The voters didn't seem to mind. This team is going to be scary. They recognize that. Jet Huff, the man on the graphic, he seems to be the name you have to know about down there for UCO. He set multiple records after transferring in prior to last season. We're talking about a guy who could be cementing what really should be and can be a legacy in Edmond, Oklahoma this year. Huff under center, had him on the program. Love that guy. This team led the MIAA in scoring last year at almost 45 points per game. And to me, that kind of says the whole story about UCO. They've got some other big-time pieces on both sides of the ball, but that is a squad that has rightfully deserved that number 3 spot in the MIAA now. Can you hold on to it, right? 4 top 25 teams out of the MIAA, the most of any conference in D2 football. This year, who wins D2's toughest conference? And Tim, I think you've got a squad that, let's just say this transitions pretty well.
Yeah, man, I think Central Oklahoma repeats this year. And I know what you were saying, they have some head coaching problems. And I think another one of their issues too, other than, losing some of their big players, you mentioned Terrell Davis, but they got a tough schedule this year. Week 2, they're going to Pittsburgh State. Then week 5 and 6, it's Central Mizzou and Fort Hays State. But listen, Jet Huff is the man. He threw for over 3,500 yards last year, 34 touchdowns. This is a serious Harlan Hill candidate this season. And I always say, if you got the best quarterback in your conference, your team's always got a chance. And I think, they repeat this year. But they do got a tough road ahead of them for sure.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And that's a team that, again, will be the topic of conversation. I think last year for UCO, I don't want to say they burst onto the team. This is not a program that has been down in the dumps, but they certainly pushed themselves into the national conversation. And for me, there is another team in this conference that has done so as of late. That is Fort Hays State. That is a team for me that I'm really excited about. And this is certainly the dog of the group of the 3 teams we're going to talk about right now in terms of the MIAA competition. Not a team that is on top of the preseason poll for the MIAA. That was actually split, by the way, between the coaches and the media who picked Pittsburgh State and Central Oklahoma, respectively. this is a team that has forced their way into the national conversation. They've earned that right because of the way they've played inside of conference. Just had a running back, Shane Watts, sign with the New England Patriots. So shout out to Watts, which is an incredible achievement. But the Tigers, they get to prove themselves right away. They open up with number 12, Angelo State at home. And guess what, fellas? The all-time series record against Angelo? 1-0, baby. They beat them last year. It was 21-7. And they have I'm not a math guy, but I believe that's a 100% winning percentage against Angelo State in the history of the program. They've got two guys on the D2Football.com Elite 100. Josh Shaw, he's back to anchor the front five on the O-line. Then you look on the other side of the ball. The top returning tackler, linebacker, Josh Johnson. He's bringing some experience and leadership to a defensive group, guys, last year that led the conference in scoring defense. That is a stat inside of this conference with the offenses we've seen come out of here with the likes of Jet Huff and Zach Zabrowski and these names at quarterback that have been synonymous with winning and filling up the stat book. That's a very incredible accomplishment for this Fort Hays squad. I'm excited to see what they put on the field in 2025.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think you guys are kind of sleeping on Pittsburgh State.
Okay. No one's sleeping on the Gorillas here.
I mean, I'm just saying, both of you guys talking about Central Oklahoma, and rightfully so. And as far as Fort Hays, yeah, another team that I could see definitely making some noise. But I will say this: if Pittsburgh State gets through the first 3 weeks and goes 3-0, they're the best team in the country.
Yeah.
Right? Like their first 3 weeks is a gauntlet, right? A gauntlet. You're looking at number 1, Ferris, number 3, Central Oklahoma, and number 6, Grand Valley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Right? Like
and then you go right off of that into Fort Hays, right? Or see who's in the poll right now.
So we're about to find out a lot about them. And here's what I'm going to say. I just think that Pittsburgh State, right? You talked about how Central Oklahoma had a really good year last year. You talk about how, Ferris State and Pittsburgh State a year ago, how big of an impact that game was. But I just think that not necessarily that I guess they're saying being slept on, but I feel like they are up there as far as like teams across the country at the D2 level that are kind of getting into that, GV category where it's like you expect really good things from them every single year now, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Where I don't think necessarily it was the case, when we were first going into school a couple years ago. Like I don't think that was necessarily the case where everyone saw them as like a perennial powerhouse. Right?
I will tell you, Pittsburgh State has been on the scene for a minute. They are.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like when everyone's
this stat
talking
should tell
about,
you all you need to know. Pittsburgh State is the all-time winningest program in D2 football history.
I know that. I'm just saying that I don't think they get necessarily the respect they deserve. Like it was one of those things where it was like when they beat Ferris, it was like a big deal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Where it's like in college football, Division I, if Ohio State beats Texas, it's like Ohio State's that good, right?
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, like I think Pittsburgh State's just I just think they're a perennial powerhouse now, and like we said, great, rightfully so. If they're all-time winningest and stuff, but I just genuinely think that they're kind of being slept on. I mean, at 10.
Let's talk about some teams here that I think could definitely make the case of being slept on. That being the unranked teams that we believe deserve a look, at least when it comes to the national conversation and making some noise on the national stage. I'll start things off. Let's talk about Tiffin. The Dragons out of the GMAC, looking to be probably the best team out of the GMAC this year, and I say that because there's a lot of football to be played, but right now on paper, this team is the front runner for the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. Coach Ekins and company, they know they've got a special group down there in Ohio, and I can say down there because we're a lake away from Canada up here in Marquette, so it's like one of the only geographic areas that can say that. More preseason honors on both sides of the ball for this Dragons squad. You've got Ronald Blackman, Chris Walton, respectively. Blackman, the GMAC Player of the Year, he's back on your roster. That's enough said. Second team All-American. And then Walton on the other side of the ball, the defensive lineman of the year inside of conference play. He led all of Division II in sacks last season. He's an absolute monster. And we get to see, fellas, you talk about a tough schedule. We get to see exactly what this Tiffin team is made of. Week 2, they head up the road to Big Rapids. That, of course, the home of Ferris State, September 13th. And we're going to see exactly what this Tiffin squad is made of. How do they stack up against the national best in the standard inside of Ferris State and Top Taggart Field up there? A lot of teams wish they had that opportunity. Tiffin has it. You have a chance to go prove yourself. Not saying you got to go blow them out in their home field, but go out there and put a great product in the field and make these voters think twice about leaving you outside the top 25.
Yeah, for sure. Not a lot of teams get that opportunity, like you said, Kobe. So once you get it, you got to make the most out of it.
Yep.
You know, one team that I really like this year, that's unranked. I might get some flack for this for some of my boys back home here. But I'm going to move it back to my old conference, the NE10, and that's the Bentley Falcons. You know, I wish it was Southern Connecticut State, but I'm going to have to go with the Falcons here. And that's because that New Haven made that big move up to Division I, and they were owning the conference for many years. You're always going to see an NE10 team sneak into the top 25 late in the season, whoever's leading that conference. Not saying that this is a national champion contender or anything, but there's always going to be a team or two in the playoffs. And Bentley New Haven was always Bentley's Achilles heel for years, and they just could not get past them. New Haven's gone. The conference is wide open, and I think it's Bentley's for the taking. I think you can see St. Anselm. They've been building that program up for a couple of years. I think they can make some noise, and Assumption's always a solid team there. You know, my alma mater, Southern's got a new head coach. I think they're a year or two away from making some noise in that conference, but I think it's going to be Bentley's year. I just think that that's just such a solidified program, and they're going to be in the top 20, I would say, by the end of the year.
You know, I like that pick a lot, and also for another reason that we haven't really talked about too much on the show, but I think we actually kind of semi-broke the news about this when we had Mike Racy, the commissioner of the MIAA, back on the show a while back. The expansion of the D2 playoff from 28 to 32 teams and the inclusion of an auto bid into the national playoffs is something that, for a team like Bentley, is incredibly important. You look at a conference like the NE10, who the last couple of years who have competed for those earned access spots where, in short, if you were inside the top 10, you got leapfrogged into the playoff conversation. That is abolished. It's out the window. Now, Division II has gone to really the auto bid style of the playoffs, where if you win your conference, you are guaranteed a spot in the national field in the playoffs. And so for the NE10 and a conference like that, you talk about Bentley and them just kind of chipping away, you know, getting themselves into that position where they're a top 25, top 20 team in the national conversation. You can now springboard yourself into a playoff run. And then, of course, you get into the playoffs, everything else is off the table, and you see how things roll. So for me, I really like that pick because it does feel like the door is opening for them in more ways than one.
100%. That automatic bid is huge, especially like you said, from a team from the NE10. And then once you get into the playoffs, you never know what happens, man. It's March Madness.
It's March Madness.
December Madness.
In like November, yeah.
December Madness.
Hey, I had coaches in high school, man, that used to just always say, like, if you're playing football and it's snowing, like, you're damn good, right? Like, that's just what it is. And so the goal for Bentley and any of these squads is to play until it's really cold at practice.
Yep, exactly. And it gets cold up here in New England, simply. Man. Very cold.
Yeah. Close us off, Drew.
Yeah, first off, call me whatever. Call me Jared Goff. Honestly, I'm on the side of, like, if it's cold at practice, like snowing and stuff, you don't get anything done because everyone's just complaining.
This is coming from the Michigan Tech Husky, dude.
Yeah, and I hated it snowed one time, and I hated it. It's like the last Monday of practice of my senior year, and I was like, this sucks. Like, man, anyway, I said, call me Jared Goff. I don't care, but like that, it sucks, right? Anyway, East Stroudsburg was my pick for a team that wasn't ranked, that I necessarily think that they have an opportunity to, like, be a little salty that they're not ranked, to be completely honest with you, right? You know, they had a solid year this past year. You know, led by, yes, they did lose a couple people to the portal. Yes, they did lose a couple people to the graduation, right? But we're talking about,
Who didn't, right?
Exactly. right? And Kobe, we talk about all the time at the college level, at the high school level, at the pro level. It doesn't matter. When you have a returning quarterback that happens to be one of the best players in your conference,
Yep.
you got a chance to make some noise. And I'm not saying that like, hey, we're going to win the conference or hey, we're going to go win the national championship. But as far as like what this question was asked, who could have been ranked, right? And who has like I think it's East Stroudsburg when you have Sean McTaggart, who I believe we just had on the show a couple
Hell yeah,
weeks
we did.
ago. Exactly. Like I just think that you got a guy like him, gives them an instant credibility, right? Instant chance of being a contender for the playoffs. And a guy like Everett Dingle, who's anchoring the defense, like they have players. They had a season this past year where they're very solid, right? Obviously ended a little abruptly and very, not the way they wanted to, but that also allows for a guy to not have necessarily a chip, but now it's a boulder on his shoulder.
I like that. Yeah. I like that, dude.
Thanks.
Dingle, by the way, that could have been a nominee for our all-name team that we just released. Here's a little bit of a preview of the Division II offense all-name team that's out on our Twitter, Instagram, social media platforms. Definitely check that out. We've got offense, defense, and special teams for D2 already out. We'll be releasing Division III and NAI all-name teams throughout the course of this week. Dingle definitely could have been an honorable mention on this list, but some of these are just ridiculous.
Tempest Fudge It.
I heard that's Latin. Someone on Twitter said that's Latin, and I forget what the meaning is right away. But that's incredible. Bobby Bacon under center. You talk about Pittsburgh State. You can't not talk about Bobby Bacon. I mean, that's incredible.
I would say Cam Newton's obviously funny. That's not necessarily a crazy name, but it is funny just because
it's incredible.
Cam Newton. But
yeah,
I would say of those ones that are probably like Solo Love is like tough. Like that's like a rapper name.
That's a sick name.
You know what I mean? Like,
dude, Tyler
like
Stonebreaker at running back, and we had a Crash Davis at linebacker out of Concordia St. Paul.
Tyler Stonebreaker's got to wear a neck brace. He's got to wear.
No, definitely.
Cowboy collar has to.
Cowboy collared up with
Tyler Stonebreaker gives WWE wrestler vibes. Like,
and if you know anything about Minot State, the way their offense is, too, you talk about run the damn ball, that's like their mantra. That is like run the damn ball. They're also an option team, and this is a team that like literally just runs the damn ball. Stonebreaker, perfect fit for that. Wide receiver core is stacked. Unique Kelly, Infinite Campbell, and Victory David. Come on.
Switch it to the defense real quick.
Let's see. Yeah, give me a sec. It's on a separate tweet here. Hold on.
Oh,
bam.
My bad.
Got it.
What Lumpy Deweese?
Lumpy Deweese, the transfer into West Florida.
Sweet.
We talked about him.
Lumpy.
Incredible.
Cash
Radical
O'Callahan.
Rothermel at the D-line spot. I told you that Tiffin team is dangerous. I didn't know how dangerous they were on that D-line.
Rocky what?
Kuntz. King Leonard and Marvelous Owens at DB. I mean, there's some incredible names on here.
Cash O'Callahan sounds like he owns a pawn shop.
No,
and then the special teams. Look at the kicker.
Mason Crosby.
Mason Crosby.
He's back. He has another year.
That's incredible. And then Corey Butts. I want to say here, Corey Butts, the punter from Slippery Rock. I believe his brother Kyle Butts also played at Slippery Rock. I mean, that's a legacy.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Legacy of Butts.
A lot of S. That's a whole
it's just like at the end of the day, man, like football is a chance to be like it's an awesome game and it's intense and it's crazy, but there's some fun shit where you're like, you just got to take a second and laugh and be like, this game is so awesome because there's so many just random and unique individuals that play this sport. Very fortunate to talk about these guys.
I appreciate you putting a long snapper on here, showing them some love.
Yes. Marchand, of course. Had to. Sioux Falls product.
This is the part for me, to be completely honest, with like the rest of like people that listen to this podcast. Like, do you know how many names and rosters that Kobe has to go through to come up with this list? Like, he could be like at this point, figuring out a way to like
Dude.
solve, world hunger
Okay.
with the amount of time he spends on trying to figure out who's got a funny name.
And I had a lot of help from Michael Wilson, who runs the College Football Network. He's great at scouring this. He probably even did more than myself. Like, he has been great. But yes, this shit is tough. Like, putting this together is tough because you want to put together a great list, man.
Was there
Someone's
any
gotta find Corey
honorable?
Bucks.
Was there any honorable mentions?
Dude, I could go for the next 15 minutes and give you honorable mentions of names that like probably should be on the list. Like the second string quarterback, so to speak, or second team all name. His name was DeJuan Owens, I believe, from Slippery Rock. Thank both you guys very much. Very excited for this season to kick off and excited to have you guys along for our coverage, man. This is going to be a really fun year, man.
It's going to be dope. It's going to be dope. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. See you, boys. Always a great time to be a fan of Division III football. This week, definitely the case as well. D3Football.com, they just released their preseason All-American teams, fellas, for 2025. We want to put together the players that would put up the most points in a hypothetical fantasy league. This is not real. We're not keeping track. But today, we're taking a look between the first team, second team, and third team of All-Americans selected by D3Football.com. We're drafting, each of us, a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, and a defense, given the selections of the All-American teams. We know it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. I think it's still a fun accolade for these guys to get. Anything jump out crazy, I guess, before we get into this in the preseason awards in terms of surprised by who was selected or maybe by who wasn't?
I'm thinking of a certain quarterback that did not get selected.
This guy.
Here we go. Have to show out for the fellas. Seth, you got to be pumped about that first team QB nod.
Nah, man, no surprises there. Super happy for him. He deserves it, absolutely.
I like it, dude. I like it. Well said. Now, the draft order for tonight, Seth, I have a feeling we'll know what you're talking about. You kick us off. First pick overall. I would play the NFL draft music. I don't want to be copyrighted. Start us off, my friend.
Come on now. When I saw I got the first pick, I was pumped. Don't get me wrong. No surprises here. Give me my man, Caleb Blaha, number 14, the leader, the chief, the captain of the UWRF Falcons. This dude is, oh my gosh. When in 2023, he would have averaged 43.6 points per game. PPR. Yep. Obviously, it doesn't matter PPR. But either way, he's an absolute machine. You get
I don't know
yourself
how many catches he's got, too.
He'll get a few here and there now, but he will. I mean, he's like a dang running back, but you're also going to get an elite level passer as well. So, 1-1 kill ball.
I like that. Yeah, the multi-dimension ability of his game, that feels like a good 1-1. Jimmy, what's the 1-2?
The Bijan Robinson of Division III football, Rashawn Lamons, running back, Susquehanna, 1,650 yards on 248 carries last year, averaging 6.7 yards a carry, 24 touchdowns, and 40 receptions for 427 receiving yards as well. So he's a PPR threat without question. This kid is just an absolute monster. I cannot believe he fell to me at the second pick. Thank you, Seth. Kobe, I'll let you take it away.
I'm staying at running back.
It's an easy 1-1. I'm not even worried about it.
I just got Bijan. Yeah. I just got Bijan, dude.
It's actually not. It's not a terrible comp. I kind of like that. I'm staying at running back, but we're going to Monty Quinn from Curry College for me. That's a guy that I want on this, again, hypothetical fantasy roster. He's a Gagliardi Trophy semifinalist a year ago. That's for good reason. That doesn't happen by accident. The All-American accolades don't happen by accident. It happens when you're third in the country in total rushing yards last season. 13 touchdowns. He didn't have as many scores. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and scoff at 13 touchdowns on a season. Absolutely not. But he didn't have as many scores as some of the top guys on that list. Look for that to change this year. What you do know with that large number in the rushing yardage kind of category, he's explosive. These are not, this is not a guy that's going to go chunk yard you for like 2, 3, 4 yards in a cloud of dust type of running back. This is a guy who's going to chunk yard you down the field for 20, 25, 30 yards on these explosive plays. For that reason, he's my first rounder. And then actually, I have to follow that up, I believe, correct?
The wraparound, the snake. Yes, sir.
So let's stay in the offensive backfield then. Quarterback, Nick Septenhelter from John Carroll. He joined the Blue Streaks from D1 Bucknell. He was a team captain, fellas, at Bucknell. This is a guy who has really good experience at the Division I level. He comes down. He has the third highest passing efficiency in John Carroll history in 2024. But for me, actually the most interesting piece about him hanging into 2025 has nothing to do with him. It's about the guys in front of him. The front five. A year ago in 2024, he had all returning starters from 2023. Last year, a ton of leadership and veteran experience in front of him in that front five. The big uglies were full of a ton of top talent. You know, from what I can tell, this year they lose at least 4 guys up front who are either All-American or all-conference level players. What does he do when there might be a little bit of a shakeup in who's snapping on the ball, watching his blind side, etc.? Still going to have a great year regardless. I'm very curious to see if he can make that next jump from what was already an incredible line of production to something that's even more ridiculous.
And then, I feel like I got another steal here. I'm going with Dylan Wheeler, wide receiver, St. John's. He is going to surpass 3,000 career receiving yards this year. He's going to surpass potentially 200 career receptions. I think he's going to shatter every school record. He already has 30 career touchdowns in 10 100-yard games. This guy reminds me of prime Jordy Nelson. He can go run down the field, make plays. He can run routes. He can do it all. He's a good blocker. He does everything. Blocking doesn't really matter in the facet of fantasy football, but this kid can do it all. Give me Dylan Wheeler in the second round. I mean, this is unbelievable, guys.
The Jordy Nelson praise from you is not something I expected.
Here's the thing. I was thinking of a legitimate comp for him, and like it pains me to say Jordy Nelson as a diehard Bears fan, but like this guy, the tape just screams Jordy Nelson to me. It really does.
That's great. I like that. Seth, you got back-to-back, dude.
Absolutely. Give me Ethan Gallo from Cortland. This dude was a second-team D3Football.com All-Region 2 honoree, first-team All-Conference, tied single-season school records for touchdowns. This dude's an absolute stud. Obviously, they're going to continue to be electric on the offensive side of the ball, and he's going to be a big reason for it. And then the wraparound with the snake, give me Robbie Ballantyne from DePauw University. In 12 games, he recorded 78 receptions for 1,200 yards and 20 receiving touchdowns. The combination that I have so far, I'm not too worried about losing any games this year to you guys.
I like that. It's back to you, Jim.
So I'm going to go with a tight end by the name of Landon Ferris from Randolph-Macon. This kid is an absolute – I mean, I think you can call it he has a breakout year incoming. He's been really solid these last 2 seasons. I think this is a guy who kind of reminds me of Trey McBride from the Arizona Cardinals. You know, he kind of like didn't have like mind-boggling stats his first year, his second year. I think he really, really makes that jump this year and like totally takes off and has a monster season. Red zone threat, another guy who can also make some big-time blocks in the run game. Give me Landon Ferris, tight end.
Yeah, that was the thing that for me, as when it comes to an all-around tight end, he has to be in the conversation. That's why he's on the list as a preseason All-American. In terms of fantasy, might be a little more of a question mark because he doesn't put up ridiculous, like you said, these egregious numbers in the passing game and those kind of things. But when you watch his impact in the run-heavy kind of attack we've seen from Randolph-Macon that dominates the line of scrimmage, no question why he's a part of this preseason All-American squad. Now, it's back to me for 2 picks. We're going to go to the wide receiver room. You guys picked, I'm not going to lie, you picked my top 2 off the board. Love both those guys that you talked about. But when I already picked up his quarterback, I feel like I have to stay there with the Blue Streaks. Let's go Tyron Montgomery from John Carroll as well. The hometown of Texas, in Woodlands, Texas, coming up to play at John Carroll is an interesting story for him. The combination with him and Nick under center is going to be one to watch this year. And, you know, it's kind of fun when you have 2 guys like that, similar roster on the squad, because it's I guess if we were actually doing this, it's less watching of, you know, you get to focus on your one team here. But I think that combo is going to be absolutely dangerous. And then I'll go back to tight end. Give me Joey Gendro from St. John's, 800 yards last year. The most impressive stat line receiving-wise of the tight ends, I think, of this bunch. And that's for very good reason. The crazy thing is, there were 2 receivers at St. John's in the top 15 last year when it came to receiving yards. That's a ridiculous feat. The tight end, to be able to get that level of production on a team that threw the ball around and passed the ball around, distributed it very well. The question for him in that entire offense in general is, can they replicate that without Severson under center? For me, Aaron Severson, he's been the man in the face of St. John's football for the last couple of years. Can the Johnnies go out and replicate that kind of success? Can they distribute the ball? Obviously, Wheeler being a big piece of that offensive attack. Gendro will be right there beside him, boys.
Solid pick there. Solid pick, Kobe. I'm going to go with arguably the best person in Division III football, the man who leads QBs against cancer, Carter St. John. The kid is a saint.
Good pick.
The kid's a saint. I mean, he's also just a phenomenal football player nonetheless. Like he's going to be the leader of my locker room in this fantasy aspect of things. There's no one else I want leading this team than Carter St. John from the Alma Scots.
Hell yeah.
I will be at River Falls with bagpipes and a kilt and a little hat, whatever you need. I'm gonna be dialed for that game day. I am so fired up. Give me all the bagpipes, give me all the kilts, give me everything, and give me Carter St. John with my quarterback pick. Thank you.
Couple All-Americans week 1. Can't wait for it. I'm gonna take Reed Breckheimer from Carroll. You know, the thing about this individual is you're not gonna only get some receiving stats out of him. You're gonna get some rushing yardage out of him. He ran for 176 yards last year and had 5 rushing touchdowns. You know, as well as having 3 receiving touchdowns as well and 476 yards receiving. So he's a little bit of a dual threat there. So, you know, kind of mixing around a little bit. And then for my defense, give me Bethel. Bethel with 38 total takeaways last year.
Pick.
24 interceptions, tied for the most in Division III. They had a deep playoff run. You know, you get turnovers, you get a solid defense. Just had their head coach on the left hash call this week.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal human. Probably one of the most well-rounded defenses in the entire country.
I like that a lot. A defense without Matt Young, of course, that will try to find and not replace, but replicate that production. But you talked about it, man. They didn't just do it on the back end of the defensive secondary. They were getting after the quarterback better than anyone else in Division III football. So when you combine the pass pressure with the back end defensive secondary that is just full of ball hawks, dangerous combination over there.
Yeah, actually, a fun fact regarding the Bethel defense for you guys. They actually knocked me out for 4 weeks. We scrimmaged them, and I just took one in the back, and I had a really bad bruised rib. I couldn't breathe. I had to get on muscle relaxers. These guys know how to hit. These guys know how to freaking hit, man. So that was a great pick for Bethel. I'm going with the North Central defense, kind of a slam dunk here. I mean, North Central defense. I mean, come on, guys. It's North Central. They're gonna steamroll the entire CCIW like they do every year. Like, come play in the WIAC, please. Like, please. Please. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, North Central is a phenomenal football program. They continuously are excellent year after year. Come play in the WIAC.
Dude, they'd be like the Big Ten expansion.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, why not? Like, they're really, really
without the plane trip to to the West Coast, right? Like,
yeah, sure, yeah.
Without being ridiculous. Well, I get to close it off then. Let's go defense, of course, with me. Give me Grove City, the Wolverines, out of the pack. And again, Ben Bladel and company, the boys, I take them to hold it down this year inside of the PAC. And we've talked a lot about that squad for good reason. They get after the ball the same way they've done in the last couple of years. And for me, it's they play complementary football over there, down there in Pennsylvania, the Grove City squad. That offense gets going. That defense keeps them going in the right direction. The defense is not typically out on the field for extended periods of time. They have a very good way of keeping opposing quarterbacks and offenses on the sideline, fellas. I'll take Grove City to close out my picks. But that'd be a fun deal. I think a D3 fantasy league would actually be something that would be really fun to look into. I'm not sure how we would set it up and do we'd have to be a lot of manual number crunching and calculators used, but definitely something to actually look into for the future.
Well, we're definitely doing this. We're not just going to draft and not manually track every week. I'm going personally. I'm going to do it. I'll do it. I'll be the guy. I'll track.
I let it off by saying this is a hypothetical.
This after week 1, and we'll see who's ahead. We'll keep it. We'll put in the ticker. We'll put in the ticker, Kobe.
Yeah.
Put in the ticker.
Oh, and by the way, a fun fact for the show: this is now my 10th fantasy league that I'm in. I'm in 3 dynasties and 6 redrafts leagues. This is now my 10th fantasy football league. I am an addict. I love it.
If they had a hotline, I'd tell you to call it.
They might. They might have one. I could probably find one. I just love
1-800-DRAFT.
I just love football, guys. I just love it. I love it.
Jimmy was so upset when he couldn't draft Adam Owen first round.
I mean, guys, come on, please, let me take my boy, man. Because, okay, first of all, Moen, if you're listening, I was told that I could not take you because you weren't a preseason All-American. You're going to be a first-team All-American by the end of the season, buddy. So don't worry about this right now. Don't clip it. Clip it, please.
Buddy,
Clip
he's not going to be first team all
Okay,
conference because my
okay,
boy up
okay.
there is taking
Okay,
over.
Seth. Okay, yeah.
Returning to
yeah.
2023 form,
But no, we
baby.
had
roll
we had good
Devils.
picks.
Hey, I'll
We
see
had
you
good
week
picks
4 or
tonight.
week
Oh,
5,
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah. Let's do it.
We had good picks tonight. I liked our groupings, and again, we know like the preseason All-American deal is the same thing as a preseason poll. It matters until everyone actually snaps the ball, puts the pads on, and we play our first week of games. For D3, it's week 1. For D2 NAI, it's week 0. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of football left. We're going to be having these conversations all the way into November and even December for Division 3 with this expanded playoff with 40 teams that make the dance. There's a lot on the table. A lot of it still very much TBD, fellas. Thank you. More of a quick portion tonight. Excited to keep this thing rolling. Good to be back behind the desk after a couple-week hiatus. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kobe. See you, brother.